Good afternoon, everybody. This is AKwx with the National Weather Service with Alaska statewide weather for August 25th, 2020. We do have a couple options for you to further refine your weather search. A 1-800 number takes you through a telephone menu system. And of course, the web at weather.gov/Alaska. Take off Alaska and put in Fairbanks, Anchorage, or Juneau, and that is designed to help you further refine your search. And lastly, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please email us there using the email at the bottom of the page. For the hazardous weather, we do not currently have any watch warnings or advisories out for the land areas this afternoon. But if you do go out into the outdoors, please check the hazardous weather at weather.gov/Alaska. For the precipitation estimate, I wanted to share with you, since it's been so rainy over the last couple days, I wanted to share with you the rainfall that has fallen during the last 24 hours, ending at 4 a.m. this morning. We had upwards of a half inch to maybe an inch around Prince William Sound area, eastern Kenai Peninsula, and lesser amounts down in the Panhandle with maybe an inch around the coastal mountains, but otherwise less than a half inch across much of the Panhandle. Also pretty good rain amounts across the eastern interior, and that another pretty good rain amounts over in the southwest YK Delta into the Seward Peninsula with that low pressure system moving on shore, but otherwise pretty wet across the state. And that continues with the precipitation forecast. Again, pretty wet, especially across the southern mainland, across the eastern interior into Yukon Territory. Pretty good rain amounts with isolated areas of up to a half inch, but otherwise a widespread area of quarter to a half. And that again down in the YK Delta with that low pressure system moving through. Pretty good rain amounts down there, quarter to a half inch in those areas. Also, as we pick up rain amounts in the eastern Kenai Peninsula with upwards of an inch or so, and that also is extending down to the Panhandle with another low pressure system near the Panhandle with upwards of close to an inch and a half, 2 inches in that area. Some of the mountainous areas could get a lot more than that. For the satellite, you can see the low pressure systems moving through, one over near the YK Delta, moving slowly eastward, and the other in the Gulf, spreading clouds and precipitation across the Panhandle. I did note some moderate rain at Yakutat, Sitka this afternoon. Also pretty good rain amounts over the Pribilof Islands, some moderate rain out there. But otherwise, some cloudiness across the eastern interior with some afternoon convection. Otherwise, some low clouds and fog along the Arctic coast and northwest coast. And of course, some fog across the Aleutians with high pressure ridge poking into that region. So what does this look like on the surface map? 1006 millibar low near the YK Delta, troughs pinwheeling counterclockwise around that system. 1006 millibars there, and 1026 millibars there over the western Aleutians. Some clouds associated with that. Otherwise, light rain again across the Brooks Range, across much of the southern mainland, and into the Panhandle with moderate rain in areas, those areas of the northeast Gulf Coast and in Panhandle. And that spreads up into the Prince William Sound eastern Kenai Peninsula around 1004 millibar low. For tonight's weather, that low pressure system in YK Delta moves further east, 1002 millibars there. And again, the low in the Gulf continues to weaken, 1004 millibars, weakening showers across the Panhandle into the northern Gulf. Otherwise, possibility of moderate rain in the eastern interior, light rain showers across much of the eastern interior as well, and then fog showing up across the northwest and Arctic coast. And again, that ridge of high pressure poking into the central and western Aleutians, 1,024 millibars there. For Tuesday's weather, again, the low pressure systems continue to weaken. Continued scattered rain showers across the panhandle. Probabilities of afternoon thunderstorm across the eastern interior. Otherwise, scattered rain showers, moderate possibilities across much of the southwest, Bristol Bay region, and into Prince William Sound and portions of Denali Park. Otherwise, fog along the Arctic coast. And again, ridge of high pressure out there in the western Aleutians. For Thursday, we have a new system showing up there in the western Aleutians, 989 millibar low with an occluder front, moderate rain, ridge moving slightly eastward, fog associated with that, but otherwise getting shut to the south, 1,017 millibars there. Otherwise, a new low, probably the low that came across the YK Delta is now into the Gulf with 1,005 millibars there. Rain, heavy at times possible in Yakutat, otherwise, and southern end of the Panhandle. Otherwise, moderate rain across portions of the Panhandle. Afternoon thunderstorms still a possibility in the eastern interior. Fog along the North Gulf Coast. And for temperatures, Wednesday morning, Kaktovik along the North Slope, 39. Deadhorse, 39. Ukqiavik, 38. Point Hope, 47. Arctic Village, 46. And then AKwx Pax, 41. Fort Yukon, 50. Eagle, 47. 46 in Bettles. 48 in Fairbanks, otherwise 40s through much of the southwest and rest of the Yukon, with 40s down through the Bristol Bay region into the Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula, with 46 at King Salmon, 46 in Dillingham, 47 in Cold Bay, 48 in Dutch Harbor, and then 48 in Seward, and 50 in Yakutat, 50 in Haines, 49 in Juneau, 49 in Sitka, and 52 in Ketchikan. For Wednesday afternoon, highs along the North Slope, 43 there at Kaktovik, 45 in Deadhorse, Ukqiavik, 43, 53 in Point Hope, 57 in Arctic Village, 50 in Tuvik Pass, 62 in Fort Yukon, 63 in Eagle, 63 in Fairbanks, 62 in Tanana, 62 in Galena, 52 in McGrath, 58 in Antioch, 56 in Bethel, and then 50s through much of the rest of the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians, with 59 in King Salmon, 56 in Dillingham, Cold Bay 52, Dutch Harbor 53, Shemya 50, Savunga 49, 63 in Kodiak, 57 in Seward, 60 in Anchorage, 57 in Yakutat, 58 in Haines, 58 in Juneau, 56 in Sitka, and 60 in Sitka. 60 in Ketchikan. Low temperatures Thursday morning, Kaktovik, 30s, 38, 30s across much of the North Slope with 35 in Ukqiavik, 46 in Point Hope, 42 in Arctic Village, 40 in AKwx Pass, 47 in Fort Yukon, 44 in Eagle, 40s down through the rest of the Yukon Basin, and 40s even into the Kuskokwim, with 45 in McGrath, 45 in Antioch, 46 in Bethel, 44 in King Salmon, 45 in Dillingham, 40s through the Alaska Peninsula, and Aleutians with Shemya 47, Kodiak 50, 48 in Yakutat, upper 40s and 50s through the rest of the Panhandle. For high temperatures Thursday afternoon, popping into the 40s along the North Slope with Kaktovik 43, Ukqiavik 40, and then as you move a little bit farther south, 56 in Arctic Village, and 60s through much of the Yukon Territory and Kuskokwim Basin.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the flying weather for Wednesday morning, when you have some IFR conditions along the Arctic coast with marine stratus up that way. Otherwise, some IFR conditions along the northern Bering associated with low tracking across the Bering Sea into the Bristol Bay and into the Gulf over the next couple of days. Otherwise, another weakening low in the Gulf will bring some marginal to IFR conditions across the southeast and into the northern Gulf. And lastly, some high pressure out there in the Aleutians will bring some IFR conditions out that way. Otherwise, marginal conditions through the Alaska Peninsula and the Bristol Bay region and along the mountainous areas of south central and southern interior. For Wednesday afternoon, continued IFR conditions out along the Arctic coast, otherwise marginal conditions in the North Slope. Marginal conditions again across much of the southwest region, but otherwise some clearing conditions in the afternoon there. And some marginal conditions down through the Alaska Peninsula, otherwise IFR conditions again showing up in the central and western Aleutians, and some improving conditions in the southeast with marginal conditions over the southeast and into the northern Gulf with some IFR conditions in the mountainous areas across the St. Elias and northern coastal mountains. For Thursday morning, IFR conditions again across the Arctic coast there, coming back on shore with that marine stratus and weak onshore flow. Otherwise, marginal conditions along the Alaska Range down into the Alaska Peninsula, areas of IFR conditions in the Bering Sea and portions of the Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, and the YK Delta. Otherwise, IFR conditions out there in the Aleutians, and some marginal to IFR conditions across the Panhandle into the northern Gulf. For Thursday afternoon, some improving conditions, especially along the Arctic coast there, North Slope, but some areas of marginal conditions there, marginal conditions out along the west and Seward Peninsula, and large area of marginal through the Bering and IFR conditions out there in the western Aleutians. Otherwise, marginal conditions in the Panhandle and northern Gulf and southern Alaska Range. For past conditions, Wednesday, Anaktuvik marginal, Adigan marginal, Lake Clark and Merrill both marginal, rainy marginal, windy marginal with some afternoon thunderstorms. Same with Isabel, and likewise in Mentasta with afternoon thunderstorms and marginal conditions. Tenedo much the same, marginal with afternoon thunderstorms. Portage just marginal conditions there. And for Chilkoot, went for IFR early and then improving to marginal by the afternoon. Freezing levels for Wednesday morning, 8,000 foot freezing level cuts across in the eastern interior, surface just off the Arctic coast there in the Beaufort Sea. Otherwise, 6,000 foot freezing level cutting across the western mainland into the northern Gulf and over to the Aleutians. And again, showing up in there, northern Gulf. Otherwise, a surface area near the St. Elias Mountains and British Columbia, Yukon Territory. For icing conditions, Wednesday, 8,000 feet and above across much of the west and Alaska Peninsula, otherwise around 10,000 feet and above along the coastal areas from southern southeast Panhandle, and across the northern Gulf region. Otherwise, again, some 8,000 foot and above across a large area of the west and into south central. Jet stream Wednesday morning, low pressure in the Bristol Bay area, 110 knots cutting across, 125 knots there just south of the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, around that low pressure kind of clockwise flow, you get into westerly winds into the northern Gulf. Otherwise, some westerly winds there as you get into the southern Panhandle with 65 knots there. And across the mainland, 40 to even lesser amounts there across much of the mainland in southerly flow across the region. For 9,000 foot winds Wednesday around that low pressure system, 30 to 35 knots across much of the Aleutians and 25 knots in just south of the Brooks Range, otherwise light and variable. 3,000 foot winds around the low pressure system, 20 to 25 knots, even 30 there in the central Alaska Peninsula, otherwise 25 in the interior. Turbulence just a little area out there in Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians, otherwise no turbulence around the rest of the state.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snider, and joining me today is Cindy Preller. She's the Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska Region's National Weather Service. And Cindy, we hear a lot about tsunamis in the news, probably a lot more than we used to, but let's remind everybody, what is a tsunami?
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Sure.
Tsunami is basically, it's really simple. It's just a disturbance in the water column. So the entire water column from the seafloor to the sea surface is disturbed by something major, usually a major earthquake. But it can also be a volcanic eruption, even an asteroid. Landslide is especially dangerous.
Okay, so if I'm sitting in my bathtub and I drop a bath toy, that could be a bathtub tsunami.
It is absolutely a bathtub tsunami.
Okay, very good. So Alaska is one of the states, or maybe the state, with the greatest amount of coastline. So tsunamis are a pretty major risk here in Alaska. Who is most at risk?
Yeah, Alaska is significant. We actually make most of the Pacific's tsunamis.
Wow, okay.
On the Aleutian Trench. And it's where the Pacific Plate is subducting underneath the American Plate. And we produce some very large, great quakes. And of course, the most at risk is the Aleutian Trench.
Okay.
But that extends into south central Alaska as well. They're at huge risk. And then southeast Alaska's risk is really mostly landslide focused.
Okay. Are there any places along the Alaskan coastline that don't have a tsunami risk, or at least a very, very low risk?
Absolutely. The Bering Sea's risk is very low, and the Arctic's risk is very low as well.
Okay, so when we're talking about tsunami dangers, those are places that need to be monitored, but probably not really.
No, I
Not a
mean,
big
I
deal.
won't say never.
Yeah, sure.
Because I know
You can't.
better.
Science knows better.
Right. So,
Very good.
near to never.
Okay. Well, let's just say you're on the coast anywhere in Alaska. What are warning signs that tsunami dangers are threatening you right now?
This is super important because Alaska's greatest risk, especially out on the Aleutians and South Central, is a near-field tsunami. And then, of course, the landslides in Southeast, it's even more intense because we
So
can't.
shorter warning times.
No warning time.
Okay.
The earthquake is the warning.
Okay.
And that is the most important thing for anybody to remember. The water can arrive in less than 2 minutes.
2 minutes, wow.
Yeah, at the National Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, we need to get the warning out in 5 minutes. So for those near-field tsunamis, it's the earthquake is the warning. So if you feel shaking,
Okay.
and of course the first thing you do is drop, cover, and hold,
Right.
and you need to start counting
Okay.
slowly to 20.
The right way. How do you do that?
Oh, I teach kids to do it with their favorite things. So
Okay.
1 chocolate, 2 chocolate, 3 chocolate, but you
Chocolate's
can
good.
count anything you like.
Okay.
And if you're thinking of something happy, that helps.
Okay.
Especially helps kids, but it'll help your
So
psyche.
you don't speed up because you're getting stressed out. I see.
Right. It actually lowers your heart rate.
Interesting.
You know, so
Okay.
if you think of something you love and practice that. So you're in an earthquake, you're under the table, you're next to the ocean,
Okay.
right?
Right.
This is important if you're next to the ocean.
Okay.
If you're not next to the ocean, don't worry about it. Just stay in place under cover.
And you're talking about a mile, a quarter mile? What's close?
A mile, even a couple miles.
Okay.
You know, our rule of thumb used to be a mile inland was safe, but the last few tsunamis have taught us otherwise.
Okay.
So, yeah, you know, in Japan we had inundation up to 10 miles.
Right.
So,
Okay. And that was a big quake.
that was a big
So
quake.
you have a quake, you're counting slowly to 20.
To 20.
What's next?
And if you get to 20 and it's still shaking, you need to evacuate.
Okay.
And that is, that's scary.
Yeah.
Because you're
That's a big quake.
evacuating in a live event that's still shaking. You know, 1964 shook for 4.5 minutes. Indonesia shook for 12 minutes.
Wow. Right.
Japan, I think, shook for 6. I'm not sure of that, but it was long. Anyway, more than 20 seconds.
And that's a sign of a very major earthquake, the worst.
Well, 20 seconds is a magnitude 7, so that's
Okay.
not the worst. But what a magnitude 7 can do is trigger a landslide.
Okay.
And those landslides might be a submarine landslide, so you won't see it, you won't hear it, you won't know it, and then the water's moving.
Okay.
So that's really, really, really dangerous. That's what happened in 64 first. Seward, Valdez, Whittier all had landslides first.
Okay. And when you're talking about the water is a warning sign too. What happens with the water that gives you a very easy visual sign that something's changing?
Not guaranteed. It might go out. It might go way out really fast enough to leave the fish behind. But that's not guaranteed. It might just be a fast flood instead.
Okay.
So either way, if it's acting like a super fast rising tide, faster than a tide should rise,
Right.
get out of there.
Okay.
And if it goes out really fast, get out of there.
Yeah.
You know, we lost a lot of lives because people will go check out the new tide pools or
Sure.
pick up fish or shells or, you know, so, and it should feel weird.
Right.
You know, it should be weird.
So pay attention to those natural warning signs and how you feel, because those are maybe the only clues you have.
Right, and you know, sound also. You can hear a tsunami. It'll sound like a roaring train, maybe.
Okay.
Or it might sound silent because the water's been pulled out.
Right.
And that's pretty weird. Imagine camping
Yeah.
at night
Yeah.
near the beach, and all of a sudden you don't hear the ocean anymore.
That would be different.
That would be weird.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you also might hear blowing bubbles, and that's actually from the pressure that's blowing the air out from the sand grains, rock grains.
Interesting.
So if you hear blowing bubbles, that's a little weird.
Okay.
Or clinking rocks, you know, like a rain stick. So those are the sound signs. So the visual is rushing in or rushing out, and roaring especially.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of work to get people and keep people aware of what the tsunami warning signs are and what the risks are around Alaska. And there's a website that can help them do that. Where can they go online to get more information for their school, their home, their church, their business?
Oh, there's several. The National Tsunami Warning Center has a website as well, and the easiest way to look that up is just NTWC.
NTWC.
The
Okay.
URL is not intuitive at all.
Okay.
There's also ready.alaska.gov. The state of Alaska has a lot of helpful stuff. Preparedness kits. They have everything you need to get ready.
Okay.
And then for teachers and others, there's a wonderful curriculum called Alaska Tsunami Education Program.
Alaska Tsunami Education Program. Okay.
And that's AKwx.
AKwx. Okay, very good. Those are really good tips to get more information and search that out and help your own community stay safe with the threat of tsunamis around Alaska. Next time we come back and talk to you some more about the Tsunami Ready program and get more in depth and how people can learn more about the risks and what to do here in Alaska. So thank you for joining us today, Cindy. And next time on Alaska Weather Facts, more on tsunamis around Alaska. We'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Look, the sea ice analysis for today, you can see that low concentrations of ice continue to show up in the ice concentration map with further degradation of ice there. Also, the ice pack continues to move slowly north. I wanted to share the Chukchi Sea daily ice extent here recently. You can see that we are well below median values there in the Chukchi Sea for August 25th, and this is coming from Alaska Center for Climate Assessment and Policy, but very low Chukchi Sea ice extent here this year, near record values. For Wednesday's marine forecast for southeast inside waters, winds generally from the south at 10 to 20, seas as high as 4 feet there in the Lynn Canal. Otherwise, outside waters, winds from the southwest 10 to 15, seas as high as 6 feet. And for Thursday's forecast, southeast inside waters, winds variable 10, seas as high as 3 feet over the Clarence Strait. Otherwise, outside waters, winds generally from the south at 20, seas as high as 8 feet. There are the southern end of the outside waters. And for south central marine forecast for Wednesday, for the Gulf region, winds generally from a variable direction up to 15 to 20 with seas as high as 5 feet. Prince William Sound, winds generally from the northeast at 15, seas as high as 3 feet. For the Cook Inlet, winds generally from a southerly direction up to 10 knots with seas as high as 2 feet. And around the southern end of the Cook Inlet near Kamishak Bay, winds generally from the west at 10, seas as high as 3 feet. For Thursday's forecast, Gulf region, winds generally from the east at 15 to 25, seas as high as 6 feet. Prince William Sound, winds generally from the east at 15, seas as high as 3 feet. And for Cook Inlet, winds generally from a northerly direction, 10 to 15, seas as high as 4 feet in the Kamishak Bay area. For Wednesday, Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, around Kodiak Island, winds generally from the southwest 15, seas as high as 5 feet. And the south side of the peninsula, winds generally from the west at 20, seas as high as 5 feet. And north side of the peninsula, winds from the west at 25, seas as high as 7 feet, and Bristol Bay region winds from the south at 15, seas as high as 4 feet. For Thursday, around Kodiak Island, winds generally from the north or northwest, 15 to 25, seas as high as 6 feet. South side of the peninsula, winds from the west at 20, seas as high as 6 feet. And from the north side, on the north side of the Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from the northwest at 15, seas as high as 5 feet. For Aleutian Chain on Wednesday, winds generally from a westerly direction, 15 to 25, seas as high as 7 feet there, just north of Nikolsky. And for Thursday, Aleutian Chain, looks like we might get into some gale warnings there. Winds generally from the south or southeast at 15 to 35, seas as high as 10 feet there between Adak and Kiska. Otherwise, on the eastern side of the peninsula, or east side of the Aleutians, winds generally from the west at 15, seas as high as 4 to 5 feet. For West Coast, winds generally from the north on Wednesday at 15 to 20, with seas as high as 6 feet near the Pribs. In Norton Sound, winds generally from the north at 10, seas as high as 2 feet. For Thursday, winds generally from the north at 10 to 20, with seas as high as 5 feet just south of St. Lawrence Island. For Wednesday's forecast, Arctic coast, winds generally from the northeast at 15, seas as high as 3 feet in the open waters there. Northwest coast, just off the coast there, winds generally from the northeast at 20, seas as high as 6 feet. And down through the Bering Strait, winds from the north at 15, seas as high as 3 feet. And for Thursday, Arctic coast region, winds from the east at 25, seas as high as 5 feet. And northwest coast, winds generally from the east at 30, seas as high as 8 feet. Looks like we might have some small craft advisories out there for Thursday. And for Bering Strait, winds generally from a variable direction at 20, seas as high as 6 feet. For tonight's weather, looking at that low moving through the YK Delta, 1,002 millibars there. Weak trough associated with that, spreading some light rain showers across the Bristol Bay region into Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians. 1,024 millibar high stretching out through the central and western Aleutians.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.